Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert, covering how the majority of most inclusive TV shows are already canceled. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Coming from Breitbart, majority of most inclusive TV shows already canceled. And coming from The Messenger, the inaugural list of TV's most inclusive TV shows reveals a troubling trend. The USC Annenberg Inclusion Initiative's new list includes many shows that have already been canceled. Also from Breitbart, existential crisis as woke Hollywood loses 20% of moviegoers. And from Variety, all the way back in 2017, already seeing a troubling trend in cancellations. Are inclusive shows in danger? Yes, they've always been in danger, but the spending kept going on because inclusion was more important than making shows people actually wanted to watch. But now it's catching up to them. From Breitbart, majority of most inclusive TV shows already canceled. The USC Annenberg Inclusion Initiative's latest list of television's most inclusive shows reveals that a majority of those shows are no longer on the air or have not been renewed. And you just can't imagine why, can you? The list compiles data regarding on-screen and behind-the-camera personnel to rank the 100 most inclusive broadcast and cable series from the 2021 to 2022 broadcast season and streaming series from 2021 to 2023, according to The Messenger. The list also includes the top 20 producers of the most inclusive shows on TV. The research team looked at over 560 series airing on broadcast, cable, and streaming platforms across 15 inclusion indicators. And we have to look at these inclusion indicators just to get a sense of how ridiculous this is. We will get to it. Guess what those 15 inclusion indicators are? More of the same nonsense. The indicators rank gender, race, ethnicity, LGBT, disability, and age representation for series regular cast. However, a troubling trend already emerges when looking at the inaugural list. A majority of the most inclusive shows have already ended, been canceled, or are in renewal limbo. Queen Sugar on the OWN network ended in 2023 after 7 seasons. The Baby on HBO aired 1 season in 2022. Naomi on the CW was canceled after 1 season. Queens on ABC canceled after 1 season. 4400 on the CW canceled after 1 season. Of the top 10 inclusive cable and broadcast shows, 5 are no longer on the air. Of the top 10 streaming shows, 6 have been canceled, while 2 were limited series not expected to return. Raising Dion from Netflix canceled after 2 seasons. Gentrified on Netflix canceled after 2 seasons. The Garcias on Max canceled after 1 season. The Last Days of Ptolemy Gray on Apple TV Plus limited series aired in 2022. With Love from Amazon Prime canceled after 2 seasons. First Kill on Netflix canceled after 1 season. Swarm on Amazon Prime limited series aired in 2023. And now for the good news. The report can be read as part of a larger narrative that Hollywood is pivoting away from diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts that stepped up amid the George Floyd protests in 2020. The cancellations of these shows can be interpreted as part of a trend that also includes the exits of multiple diversity, equity, and inclusion executives from major Hollywood companies last summer, as if studio leaders are deciding inclusion isn't profitable enough. Well, it's pretty apparent it's not profitable enough if the shows aren't successful. These guys try to talk in circles and play games and keep going around and around. The bottom line is, if people aren't watching the shows, it's not successful. Representation is not storytelling. Just because you look like me, or I look like you, or you look like someone else, it doesn't create a story. A story has to have a point to it. It has to have a message. The characters have to be relatable, but not by physical characteristics. They have to be thematically relatable. What Hollywood is doing to racial minorities can only be described as a grotesque disservice. Going all the way back to the 1980s, most every field of entertainment, movies with Eddie Murphy, daytime TV with Oprah Winfrey, primetime TV with Bill Cosby, music, Michael Jackson, Tina Turner, Prince, with comedy, Richard Pryor, and sports were dominated by a flood of black talent the whole country embraced without ever thinking about race. None of us cared. In the 1980s, no one thought a thing about a white teenage girl tacking posters of black superstars to her wall. What made those black celebrities straight-up 1980s superstars was their universal appeal, which gave them careers that lasted for decades. What Hollywood is doing now to racial minorities is using them as woke cannon fodder. These performers finally have a long overdue opportunity to hit the big time, but the unappealing, divisive, preachy, smug shows and roles they're hired for kill their careers on the launch pad. Becoming a star requires one thing above all: audience goodwill. Entertainment today refuses to generate career-making goodwill. Instead, everything divides, scolds, lectures, and insults. This turns everyone of every color off, which is why we are buried in shows featuring non-whites, but no Morgan Freeman, no Denzel Washington, or Pam Grier, Will Smith, Sidney Poitier has emerged. No one gets a chance to succeed this way. This is why no beloved Good Times, Family Matters, Fresh Prince, Scandal, The Wire, or Rock has emerged. These oh-so-inclusive shows are not being canceled because America's racist. No television show or movie needs a single white person to become a hit. There are 47 million black people in the United States. If only 15% of them watch a show, it will be a monster hit. Where are all the left-wing Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden voters? If just 10% of them tuned in, you'd have a hit show. This new survey doesn't reveal a tolerance problem in America. It reveals a quality problem in left-wing Hollywood. And it's not just woke TV shows getting destroyed. It's woke movies. From Breitbart, existential crisis as woke Hollywood loses 20% of moviegoers. The start of the COVID pandemic is about 4 years in the rear view and still being blamed for Hollywood losing 20% of moviegoers. Quote, 1 out of every 5 moviegoers has vanished since the pandemic, according to research compiled by one Hollywood studio. According to The Hollywood Reporter, whether they'll ever return to see a film on the big screen is anyone's guess, and if they do, when. They will go see movies when they're worth seeing. You've got to make them good first. Compared to the latest pre-pandemic year of 2019, the domestic box office is down 21%. The lengthy article is full of facts and figures. It also accidentally answers the question it actually asks about why this is happening and how to fix it. But it never acknowledges the answer. The answer is right here. Spider-Man: No Way Home, Barbie, Oppenheimer, John Wick 4, Top Gun: Maverick, and Sound of Freedom. Those titles were monster hits during and after the pandemic for one very simple reason: people wanted to see them. The idea that the reasons behind this drop in movie ticket sales is a whodunit mystery is absurd. The titles above prove that people will still turn out in droves if they find something appealing. So how can anyone still blame the pandemic for the drop in moviegoing? If the pandemic was to blame, nothing could succeed in theaters. Plus, Taylor Swift's big 2023 concert tour proves the moviegoing demo isn't afraid to congregate or come out of their homes. She's packing them in up to the rafters. The article also suggests moviegoers are tired of aging franchises. How can that be true when the 5th biggest global blockbuster of 2023 was the 10th chapter in the 24-year-old Fast and Furious franchise? The article suggests moviegoers are tired of superheroes. How can that be true when Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was 2023's 4th biggest global blockbuster, with more than $800 million worldwide? Audiences worn out by franchises and superhero movies would not go to see any aging franchise or superhero movie. Fast 10 and Guardians became hits because people wanted to see them. But why Fast 10 and Guardians 3 and not Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny? Another simple answer. Dial of Destiny emasculated and shamed its hero with an unappealing girl sidekick, while Fast 10 and Guardians 3 remained true to their characters and what made them iconic. These blockbuster movies also can't be blockbusters unless some people love the movie and want to go see it more than one time. If you humiliate an iconic character, people are never going to go back and see that a second time. And of course, the word of mouth on it's not going to be good either, so a lot of people will never go to see it. The existential truth, and we all know it, is this: ever since Donald Trump won the presidency in 2016, Hollywood has sought to punish, insult, and alienate Trump voters, of course that's half the country, by way of cinematic tantrums that scold and demonize us due to our gender, faith, political beliefs, and overall normalcy. Hollywood's insane crusade against decent people and decency hit warp speed after the death of George Floyd with a legion of movies where no one behaves or interacts normally. In order to push its social and political agenda, everyone's a simple-minded stand-in for us evil normal people or the oh-so-noble BIPOC LGBT people. Disney is now queering our children. Indiana Jones is criticized as a colonialist. Luke Skywalker is a child murderer. Buzz Lightyear is a glad crusader. Thor learns to wear an apron. On top of that, movie after movie tells us sexual deviancy, mental illness, and narcissism are virtues. Worst of all, our heroes, the very characters that made these franchises golden geese for decades, are deconstructed, portrayed as bigots, and replaced with girls and racial minorities for no good reason other than tokenism. Sometimes, as the Equalizer franchise proved, there is a good reason. Denzel Washington is awesome. Mostly, though, the tokenism is so ham-handed and off-putting that the bad taste in our mouth tells us not to bother purchasing a ticket. So there's no mystery here. The movies actually just suck. Here's how the inclusion list scores their inclusion points. The inclusion list, scoring on-screen and behind-the-camera representation. The inclusion list was determined through a process of assigning points for series that met inclusion metrics. A total of 15 points could be earned. 5 for on-screen inclusion, and 10 for behind-the-camera inclusion. To determine on-screen inclusion scores, the series' regular cast members for each series were identified. Then, each series' regular character was evaluated for gender, race and ethnicity, and age. Information on whether the character was LGBT and/or shown with a disability was also obtained from online sources. Annenberg Inclusion Initiative research assistants, so this is actually someone's job, also watched the first episode of each series to confirm judgments made from online information. A series could earn up to 5 points for on-screen inclusion based on the 5 inclusion indicators: gender, race, ethnicity, LGBT, disability, and age. A point was awarded when the percentage of series regulars with each inclusion indicator reached proportional representation to the U.S. population. Behind the camera, it was possible for a series to earn up to 1 point for each behind-the-camera position evaluated, 10 in total. The positions were director, writer, producer, cinematographer, editor, composer, production designer, costume designer, casting director, and first assistant director. Every episode of a season was examined to determine who worked in each of the positions evaluated. Up to 1 point was allocated for each behind-the-scene camera role. Points were based on the percentage of women or people of color credited in a specific position. For positions in which multiple individuals were credited, a fraction of a point was allocated for every woman and/or person of color in the role. If 5 writers were credited on a season of 10 episodes, and 3 were women and 2 were people of color, the series earned half a point for that position. There were 2 exceptions. For casting directors and costume designers, the historically gendered nature of the role required a different approach. For these positions, if the credited individual was a person of color, the film received a point. Points were totaled across all available metrics on screen and behind the camera, and series were ranked according to their full point total. The inclusion list for streaming series is comprised of series that earn between 6.9 and 13.3 points across all inclusion metrics. For broadcast and cable series, scores range from 5.3 to 12.8. As the woke media mob is starting to discover, you can assign points for people's skin color and their race and their disability and their age. Ultimately, you add it all together and it adds up to 0 if people aren't watching the shows and the shows get canceled. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.